We are a little less than 48 hours from kickoff between the Utah State Aggies and the Texas A&M Aggies, so it's time for some bold predictions for the week ahead.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are Locked On the Texas A&M Aggies. I'm your host, Matt Galatzan, publisher of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. Thank you for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, more dedication, more attention to detail, there is more to a Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. DJ, we are almost to kickoff. We are a little less than 48 hours away from week 2 with Texas A&M and Utah State. Some Aggie on Aggie action here in the coming weekend. So what I wanted to do is give us, bring our audience some bold predictions for the game. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some things that we would really like to see in the game, some critical things that we think the Aggies need to do. And then we're going to play a little over-under prop bet game here in the last segment. The prop bets aren't out yet, so we had to come up with our own. So stick with us and see if we're out of our minds with these prop bets. But let's move on to the meat of the show here. That's our bold predictions for this one, DJ. Last week, my bold prediction for Texas A&M was that they would have 2 100-yard rushers in this game. I believe that Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens combined for about 10 carries or something like that in the game. So they didn't really play a whole lot. I was off on that one. And I don't remember what yours were. I think that, it's kind of hard to judge these bold predictions in week 1. So now that we have a little bit more of a sense for what this team did in week 1, we can make some more educated guesses for week 2. I'm going to start off here. I'm going to go kind of back to my prediction from last week, except I'm not quite to the extreme. I think A&M is going to get the running game going this week. They didn't really implement it last week because the passing game was so dynamic. I think they're going to want to get the rushers going in this game, kind of a tune-up before they have to go up to South Bend and face Notre Dame. I think that Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens both have at least 10 carries in this game, and I think they combine for around 150 yards and maybe 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I was genuinely shocked to see that they didn't, get 100 yards each in that first game. But it's just one of those things where I don't think anybody would have saw that coming. A&M all last season looked like a true rushing team, and they looked to run the ball first. But this season it was the complete opposite in the week 1 opener. So I can't fault you there. But this week I definitely can see them going and getting those rushers going before they face, true, hard contender style opponents. So I definitely could see that happening. I think those two are going to be rip-roaring and ready to go, especially after 10 combined carries last week. But I think my bold prediction for this game is going to be I think Miles Davis is going to torch the Aggies just like Robert Henry did. Utah State's running back, he had himself a game last week. He had, I believe it was 88 yards and a touchdown. But I think he's going to hit that century mark against the Aggies.
Yeah, I mean, look, based on what Robert Henry did last week, it's kind of hard to imagine that they could fix the running game that quickly. It seems like it's still an issue. I don't think it'll be necessarily as bad as last week when I think Henry had somewhere upwards of
188.
188 yards or something like that on just 11 carries. And I believe he had 2 touchdowns as well in that game. Miles Davis, I don't think is as talented as Robert Henry Jr. That being said, he's certainly explosive. He had 12 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown last week. Alongside 6 catches for 61 yards. So he's a really explosive player. He's not the big body in terms of height necessarily that Robert Henry Jr. is, but he does weigh 215 pounds and he can scoot. So I think that you might be onto something there, DJ. Utah State likes to run the ball. A&M struggled to stop the run in week 1. We'll see if they can fix that. And with the Aggies, I mean, Marcel Reed was the leading rusher last week with 39 yards. Ruben Owens and Le'Veon Moss combined for 8 carries, as a matter of fact, for and this is me doing math live on air, about 56 yards. So give or take a yard or two, because my math live is not as good as it is when I'm not live. But so I expect to see them get going a little bit more. I expect Amari Daniels to get involved a little bit more. And we'll kind of see how they approach that, because I do think they need to get that ready to go before they head up to Notre Dame in week 3. Another bold prediction, I think, for me, and just given what happened last week when they didn't really get the sack numbers that I think they wanted to get against Owen McCowan, I think that this defense gets at least 3 to 4 sacks. I think Cassius Howell gets involved. I think TJ Searcy gets involved. Rylan Kennedy had a sack last week, so I'm not sure if he's going to get back in there, but he certainly has a chance. And then maybe in the second half, one of these younger guys like a Marco Jones or somebody like that gets involved and gets a sack to their name as well.
Yeah, last week it really felt like A&M's pass rush was kind of similar to what they were last year, where you didn't really see them at all in the game. But I definitely think that they're gonna try to pin their ears back, especially with facing Owen McCown the entire time. You're hearing this guy's a passer. He's the real deal. I think that definitely may have gone into play calling a little bit, caused the edge rushers to kind of play back a little bit. But I think this week they're going to be pinning their ears back and ready to go.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be difficult to put up those sack numbers, in my opinion, just for one reason, and that's that Utah State likes to run the ball a lot. So in order to, get them into situations where they are throwing the ball a lot, I think you're going to have to get up early, maybe get a couple early touchdowns and force them into throwing the ball and getting away from the running game. So we'll see how that goes. It's A&M started a little slow in week 1. Hopefully they start off a little quicker this week. Get Craver involved a little bit early on, get KC Concepcion involved a little bit early on, and don't rely on a punt return touchdown to kind of get your juices flowing as they did in week 1. But do you have any more bold predictions for this game, DJ?
I think the A&M receivers are going to take a step back in this one. I think A&M is going to rely on the run. I think they're just not going to throw the ball as much or as often. I still think Craver and Conception are going to have, games that we're not going to sit here and be like, oh, what happened? These guys fell off a cliff. But they're just not going to get the same amount of receptions that they did last week. And the yardage is going to be gained mostly through the run.
Yeah, last week, KC Concepcion had 3 catches for 72 yards and a score. Craver had 8 catches for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was absolutely electric. So, yeah, I mean, to replicate that kind of performance specifically would be very difficult. But you never know. Maybe he's going to have another banger of a game and really set himself up nice going into the Notre Dame game. We'll see how that goes. But I tend to agree with you there on that one. All right, well, let's take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about 3 or 4 things that we really want to see this team do in week 2. Yesterday we talked about keys to the game. This is a little bit different. This is just something that we really want to see this team do going into week 2 and kind of turn the corner in a couple of ways. So stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back. Hey, Locked On Aggie fans. Are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out at any time to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer Drive On By, download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited 25-cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code FOOTBALL. Offers may vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Today's episode is also brought to you by Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. Brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. Because these moments do more than win, they push what's possible. They remind us to go that extra yard, shift into that extra gear, and keep the game moving forward. You think about the Aggies last week, KC Concepcion really broke the game open for them. They were started slow. They were sluggish. He got that punt return touchdown. That really got the juices flowing. That really kept the energy going and moving forward, and that's exactly what Mazda's about. That's what keeps fans and players alike moving forward, always chasing the next great moment. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, DJ. Last week, there was a lot of glaring holes for Texas A&M in this football game. Overall, I got a little pushback in the comments after on our Monday show, but I thought the Aggies dominated the game in the second half, which is when this game really blew open. It was a little bit sluggish back and forth in the first half. As we've mentioned a couple times, Concepcion's punt return kind of got the juices flowing, got things, kicked forward. And then Mario Craver took over the game and Marcel Reed took over the game. This week against Utah State, I think what every, Texas A&M fan wants to see is domination from start to finish rather than starting slow and finishing fast. So with that in mind, I thought that we should each come up with a couple of things that we want to see Texas A&M do that will help them start faster and dominate throughout all 60 minutes of this football game so they can be at their best going into the Notre Dame game in week 3, which is, obviously their biggest early game on the schedule. And you need to get right before that game. So with that in mind, I decided my first thing, and it's very obvious, and it's very, duh, Matt, I get it, but you got to stop the run. You got it. Last week wasn't that they got, dominated at the line of scrimmage. UTSA wasn't getting this massive push on the defensive line or anything like that. The fits were just bad, and the gap schemes were bad, and it was a lot of fundamental stuff that Texas A&M I think can iron out very quickly. I think that starts with Torian York. He needs to be in the right place at the right time, and he didn't play a bad football game last week. He had 10 total tackles. He was good, but he needs to be the one that really drives this thing forward. I think Dalton Brooks coming back in the strong safety role really helps a lot. Scooby Williams needs to be better. These defensive tackles need to fit their gaps better. You just need to plug the holes and play your run fits, and I think that is the most critical thing for Texas A&M this week against a team that really likes to run the football.
Yeah, I agree. I saw a clip on Twitter, earlier today, and it was of Cassius Howell just getting absolutely bullied on an outside. It was I believe it was a pitch, and he just got bullied right into the inside and just washed down the line of scrimmage. And that's exactly what they want to happen. It was actually a touchdown. But Ratcliffe, he was there. He looked kind of lost on that play, and it was like, if your safeties are looking lost on a run play, that's something that's got to be fixed. But it just stems from the defensive line because everybody was just not in the position that they needed to be, and it just proved completely everything can be fixed. It's just about getting the right guys in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. And those edges, they just need to set the edge. It's not that they were getting blown off the ball every play.
Yeah.
That specific play, he didn't have the right leverage. He got washed down the line, and that led to a big thing. That's the kind of stuff that they need to fix. Exactly.
Yep.
But we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's hard to fix those things after 1 week, but Mike Elko is a defensive guy. He knows how to coach these kids up, so I think they'll be okay there. What's your first one, DJ?
I'm gonna Riverside it, go to the offensive side of the football. Just kind of same premise. They need to run the football. You have one of the what's supposed to be one of the or the best offensive lines in the nation. Last week, you gave it to the running backs a total of 10 times. You just got to run the football, especially against opponents like this. If you have big guys up front, let your big guys dominate their big guys, and I think that'll just be something that sets the game apart. If you can wear them down early, then the rest of the game should just follow behind it.
Yeah, I agree with that. They need to establish the run in this game. Marcel Reed doesn't need to be getting all the carries or the most carries in the game. You have two of the best running backs in the SEC. You have two of the best running backs in college football, as a matter of fact, with Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens. So get them going. I get that you kind of want to limit their mileage heading into SEC play, but you also need to, be sure that they're in a rhythm when they get to Notre Dame in week 3. So they definitely need to establish a run and maybe get Amari Daniels a few more carries in there. But definitely a big piece. My next one, or my last one, I should say, is and I'm piggybacking off of you a little bit because you wrote this one in a piece on Texas A&M Aggies on SI today. Everybody should go check it out. Very good read by DJ there. You got to feed these wide receivers, DJ. Mario Craver is an absolute demon. He's explosive. You get the ball in his hands in space, and there's a very good chance he's going to score a touchdown because not a lot of people are going to catch him. KC Concepcion obviously is of a similar mold in the sense that if you give him the ball in space, he could score from anywhere on the field. But the one that I really want to focus on here is Terry Bussey. I didn't think Terry Bussey got nearly enough, run in that football game. He didn't get enough touches. He didn't get enough attention on offense. I want to see him go off in this game. I want to see him prove to be the third wide receiver on this football team that's reliable, that can be explosive, that can score, because we know he's capable of it. But if you can't do that, if you don't do that against UTSA, why are you going to do it against Utah State? I think that they want to get the ball in his hands more, and that's exactly what they're going to do this week.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's awesome about Texas A&M's offense right now. They always say the way to win football games is to get the ball to your best playmakers in space and let them do their thing. Last week, that's what they did, but they just have so many playmakers to choose from. Like we were talking about Moss in the backfield, they have Owens in the backfield, then you have Bussey, and then you have Craver and Conception. It's got to be kind of hard to share that ball around. But you have to. And it keeps defenses guessing. And that's something that I'd love to see out of Bussey. I think I forget which game it was, but he had that awesome, I think it was 81-yard jet sweep last season. We need to see more of that out of him, and it just kind of showed that he can do it.
Yeah, just one catch for 5 yards against UTSA. Not enough for him. He needs to be involved in the game more. And I believe that play that you're talking about was against McNeese State in week 2. He had a 65-yard touchdown run. Absolutely electric play there from him. And that's the kind of stuff that he's capable of. We need to see him do more of that stuff, whether it's a reverse or a jet sweep or, a screen pass or whatever the case may be. Just get the ball in the guy's hands.
Definitely my last thing that I really need to see. It was me personally. I didn't think we had enough big bodies on the field. I'm never gonna turn down 21 personnel, get the 2 tight ends out there, and that just opens up more. Defenses are gonna line up to that. They're gonna get more big guys on the field, and then that way you can get guys like Craver and Conception going. Then you have them paired up on linebackers, which is a recipe for defensive disaster. But at the same time, you have more big bodies on the field, then you can run the ball easier.
Yeah, Theo Melanostrum and Amari Niblack are both super talented tight ends. They bring different skill sets as well, so having them both on the field together, or a Borkircher or Micah Riley, just get those guys out there. You got a really deep tight end room. They're talented. Give them the opportunity to shine in this game and really try to physically dominate Utah State. I think that's a really good call, DJ. All right, well, let's take our second break. When we come back, we're going to close out the show with some prop bets. I came up with some of my own prop bets because they haven't really released any so far this week. We had like one, I think, that we could find, but I came up with my own. Hopefully, they're realistic. We're gonna go through some of this stuff and kind of pick what we think is going to happen this weekend. So stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more money every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. As I said earlier, Casey Concepcion, he delivered last week. Big time punt return touchdown that really really changed the game. Mario Craver, 8 catches, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was one of the most explosive wide receivers in the entire country in week 1. When the pressure was on, they both came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching, week after week, those performances, they're not going to be a fluke. This is going to be something that's going to continue, and I think that this is going to be kind of a streak for Texas A&M. And just like Craver and Conception delivered for Texas A&M, DoorDash delivers on your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you can save money every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. I love DoorDash, DJ. I do it every weekend. But anyway, awesome. It's goated. So anyway, let's talk about some prop bets. Last week, I somehow lost the ones that we did last week. I don't remember the ones we did. I definitely got a couple of them wrong, specifically in the rushing game. I'm going to keep these on hand for next week so we can review them. But let's start with passing. Marcel Reed really threw the ball a hell of a lot better than I thought he was going to in week 1. He looked like he really took a step forward in that game, and he was making his reads well. He was using his feet well. Ended up completing 22 of 34 passes for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns. I want to say the over/under on the passing touchdowns was like 1.5. So he shattered that one. This week, the prop bets that I came up with personally, because they weren't really released online yet. Let's start with passing yards. Marcel Reed over/under 225.5 passing yards. I'm going to go over. I think that he has another game similar to what he had this past week. Maybe not with all the touchdowns, but I think he definitely gets upwards of around 230, 240 yards through the air.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely could see him hitting the 240 mark. Especially after we saw what he could do last year, or not last year, last season. I almost said last season, last game. He's just one of those guys that they said he was not a passer. So he went out there and proved that he was, 4 touchdowns. I think he'll hit the 245, 250 mark.
Yeah. And then touchdowns. I think I put the over under at 2.5 since he had 4 last week. I'm going to go under. I think he gets 2 touchdowns through the air this week. I think that they try to run the football a little bit more, and they get a couple touchdowns on the ground as well. Maybe 2 to 3 touchdowns on the ground, including one maybe from Reed himself. But I'm going to go with the under there. I got 2 passing touchdowns for him this week.
I think I'll go with the over. I think I'll go with 3. I feel like 2.5 really is the magic number though, because I could see him going either way. But I just got to go with 3. I mean, he threw 4 last week. Utah State might be missing a safety. I haven't seen if he's coming back. His name is Ike, but his last name's escaping me right now. He was suspended just for team conduct, and I don't recall if he's coming back or not. But if he's not, then I think he can definitely hit that 3 touchdown mark.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of hard to find Utah State, injury reports and suspension news and those kinds of things. Ike Larson, this senior out of Smithfield, Utah. We'll see if he comes back this week. If he does, that definitely could change things. Let's move on to rushing, DJ. Like I said, 8 carries for a combined 56 yards for Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens. I don't anticipate that's going to be the case this week. I think they should each get at least double-digit carries, like right at the 10 mark, maybe. Just get them going a little bit more. I put the over-under at this may be a little lofty, but I put the over-under for Le'Veon Moss at 75.5 rushing yards. I think that, he has a chance to break one. I think that he's going to have a chance to kind of get going. And assuming the confidence is back there in his knee, I think he could hit that mark.
Yeah, I think so. He talking about the confidence. They asked him if he was going to, step out of bounds to avoid hits like the one that took out his knee last year. He said, "No, I play football. Like I'm not here to step out of bounds. I'm a running back. I'm going to take the contact." So I think mentally it's there. I just don't know if he's going to have that block, but I'll take the over on that. I like that one.
Okay, then Ruben Owens, I have his over-under at 60.5. I feel like I probably should have flip-flopped these because Ruben Owens is just an absolute burner. He's got a lot of speed, but, we've already got it written down, so we can't change it now. 60.5 for Owens. I think he goes over. I think he averages about 6.2 yards per carry on 10 carries and gets just over 60 yards, like about 60, 62, 63 yards, something like that.
Yeah, I like that. I think you're spot on with the yards per carry. I think he's one of those guys that if you give him an inch of room, he'll take a mile. So I think he definitely can hit that spot.
And 0.5 touchdowns each. I think each of them are going to score a touchdown in this game. So I'm taking the over on both of them for that.
I agree. I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Yeah, we got to see that running game get going. And then last one, DJ, receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. I put Mario Craver, who had 122 yards on 8 catches last week and 2 touchdowns. I have him with his over-under at 79.5 receiving yards. And then I have Casey Concepcion, who had 3 catches for 72 yards and a score. I have him at 54.5 passing yards. I'm taking the over on both, but just barely. I don't think that they're going to have necessarily the same production that they had last week, but I'm going to take the over on both.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think Craver's probably going to finish around the 85 mark. Just barely get over that. It's not every day that you can have a 122-yard game, but
yeah,
I will gladly take 85.
And then over under half a touchdown for each of them. I think Craver gets back in the end zone. I don't think Concepcion gets in the end zone on a receiving touchdown. I think the other passing touchdown goes to a tight end from my earlier pick, but I've got over and then under on Concepcion.
Yeah, I'll take the over on both. I said that Reed was going to get in there 3 times. I think he finds both of them, and then I think he might find a running back on the third.
Okay. So yeah, we'll see if we're right or wrong. 11:45 a.m. Central Time on Saturday. The Aggies take on the Aggies. It's going to be a good game, DJ. We're both really looking forward to it. But that's gonna do it for this episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much for making Locked On Aggies your first listen today. But hey, it's another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts, including myself, hopefully here in the coming weeks. I'm really looking forward to getting an opportunity to do that, so please tune in. But it's a college football preview unlike that only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. And don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast, give me a follow over on Texas A&M Aggies on SI and on X at Matt Galatzan, and follow DJ on X at DJ Burt, and we will see you next time.